Hi guys, welcome back. Super fun transformation for you today that I did with Crown Paints. So this was a collaboration with them and this was the chest of drawers that I'm doing today. So let's get started. This chest of drawers needed a lot of work. I got it for €10, someone was selling it, so it's not surprising that it needs a lot of work, but it has the bones of a beautiful, beautiful piece. So I knew that I would want it and I knew that it could become something amazing. So I'm just taking off the knobs here and putting them in a little plastic bag with all the screws so nothing gets lost. And now I'm just filling all the holes. There's a lot of holes. I then gave the piece a really good sand. Anywhere that was filler, I made sure that it was super smooth, because when you paint over it, it's just going to highlight any bumps. You can see I have a clamp on the lower right side there. Some of the veneer had been coming off, so I just glued it on with some wood glue, and then I'm using these clamps to just let it dry and let it set properly. So that's just drying there while I'm doing the sanding. So this is the design I have for this piece. I usually come up with a little sketch just so it makes it easier and I can sort of think through all my steps in my head. First thing I wanted to get right was the sun at the bottom, because obviously it's very integral to this design, so I wanted to get it right. So you'll see I just put a big plate in the center of the drawer, then drew around it, and now I'm taping over that drawing of the semicircle. And then I'm just going to put the plate back on then, and then I'm going to cut around it. So that's perfect. So that inner semicircle is perfect, but now I have to get the outer semicircle right, which was difficult. I didn't have a bigger plate to trace around, which would have been way easier. So what I did was I got some thinner masking tape. You'll see it in a minute. It's going to be yellow, and I cut loads of slits in it half the way up, and then that allowed me to sort of mold it around my line that I'd created already. So you'll see that's what I'm doing there, and I've got a perfect semicircle. Now I'm just doing the rays coming out of the sun, and this is done without measuring. I just sort of took a step back and kept looking at the design overall and made sure it was okay. Now I'm just cutting each drawer so that the masking tape isn't stopping me from taking out each drawer. And here you'll see I'm putting this piece on top of these tiny tins of paint. This makes it so much easier to paint the legs. Super good tip. I then primed the entire piece with a oil-based primer that is tinted to a mid-grey. This really helps with the coverage of the yellow later on, and you'll just see I'm doing that all over, and I'm using 2 fussy blocks as usual, and it's the semi-smooth one I'm using today. Now I'm going to talk you through the colours I chose. So these are all Crown Paints, and it's the House and Home collection. This is Golden Cream, and the next one is On a Beach, and the third colour I chose is Mustard Jar. As I said earlier, this is a collaboration, so Crown Paints kindly gave me these colours to do this project. So again, I'm using my semi-smooth 2 fussy blocks roller, which is what I always use, and I'm just doing each one. You won't see the final result because I took out all the drawers so that I could paint the surrounding part. But here is some tape porn. This is probably the most satisfying tape peeling for me, because I don't do curves like this very often, and of course it went blurry a bit there, but how satisfying. Love it. So I didn't really like the sides with the plain wood on show, so this is the side of the piece, and I decided to sort of continue the pattern but in the opposite direction. So I'm continuing the sunbursts and I'm just applying the tape here. Again, I didn't measure it, I just sort of stood back and made sure it looked okay, and here I am priming it again. thing I would say is just make sure that the tape you're using can be left overnight if that's what you're planning on doing. If not, then I would try to remove the tape in the same day if you can. So it's just to avoid any bleeding through the paint. I actually got someone to film this, which was a massive treat for me because it just means that like you get all of the footage, whereas when I'm doing it, it's just a bit rubbish and it's just shaking all over the place. So here is the piece fully painted, and I haven't got the knobs on yet, obviously. And looking at this, I wanted to continue the design with the knobs because I didn't want them to be like an eyesore and sort of disrupting the pattern. So I will talk you through how I painted them.
So they can be so fiddly and you've nothing to hold on to. So I'm just going to take a box, and I've just got a box cutter, and I'm literally just going to do a little cross. I've just put the screw through the little hole that I made and then screw that on, and that just makes it so much easier to paint.
So the first thing I did was I cleaned the knobs, sanded them, and then wiped away any dust to make sure that it's a good surface for painting. And then I just primed them using the same primer I used earlier. These knobs are all in a section where the stripe is fully covered, but some of the knobs I had to continue the design on the knob itself. So here I am sort of eyeballing, trying to get the right stripe. This is all trial and error. I had to do this a couple times. These knobs actually worked out beautifully. I think you could use these on a plain piece of furniture also, and it would look really nice. They're just really different. So then I'm just going to put them all on and do some finishing touches now. As the paint is self-sealing, I can go over it with this teak oil and I don't need to mask it off. It should be fine, and I'll just wipe off any excess after it dries. I also touched up any areas where the paint like spilled or any areas like that with the tiny artist paintbrush and varnished the top. And this is the end result. So this was the first collaboration I did with a big paint brand like this, so it was super exciting for me. I hope you like the end result. This will be a competition piece, so you can win this piece if you're in Ireland. So I'll post the details to that below. Thank you so much for watching, and don't forget to subscribe.